Caitlin Clark just filed a bombshell lawsuit against ESPN's Monica McNutt. The rookie superstar is taking legal action after McNutt claimed her popularity stems from being a white girl from Middle America. McNutt reportedly left the ESPN offices in tears while Clark's attorneys are demanding millions in damages. The WNBA's biggest star is finally fighting back. Let's get straight into what went down between the WNBA's Golden Girl and one of ESPN's most outspoken commentators. The sports world is absolutely buzzing right now with news that dropped literally minutes ago. Caitlin Clark has officially filed a defamation lawsuit against Monica McNutt following months of what Clark's legal team calls racially charged commentary designed to diminish her achievements. For those who haven't been following this brewing storm, Monica McNutt has become one of Clark's most vocal critics since the Iowa star entered the WNBA. What started as basketball analysis quickly morphed into something more controversial when McNutt sat down for an interview with the BBC earlier this season. During that now infamous segment, McNutt made the statement that would eventually land her in legal hot water. The one thing that I cannot deny is the amount of little girls that were showing up to follow her. Why? Well, she was a white girl from the middle of America. Those 14 words, particularly white girl from the middle of America, are now at the center of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit that could reshape sports media forever. Clark's legal team didn't mince words in their filing. The lawsuit claims McNutt's commentary wasn't just an opinion but a deliberate attempt to frame Clark's historic success as a product of racial preference rather than her extraordinary talent and work ethic. They argue that by attributing Clark's popularity to her race, McNutt engaged in defamation that damaged Clark's reputation and created a hostile environment both on and off the court. The lawsuit cites specific instances where McNutt doubled down on this narrative across multiple platforms. In one ESPN segment, she questioned whether Clark would receive the same adoration if she weren't, in McNutt's words, relatable to suburban America. In another appearance on a popular sports podcast, she suggested Clark's record-breaking viewership numbers reflected America's comfort with certain types of athletes. What makes this case particularly explosive is the timing. Clark is in the midst of a rookie season that has transformed the WNBA. Television ratings have skyrocketed by 90% for games featuring Clark. Attendance is up 48% league-wide. Merchandise sales have hit unprecedented numbers. By every objective metric, Clark has been the biggest boost to women's basketball in decades, and yet, according to Clark's attorneys, McNutt has consistently pushed a narrative that undermines these achievements by suggesting they're rooted in racial preference rather than basketball brilliance. The lawsuit points to a disturbing pattern that emerged following McNutt's commentary. As her white girl from the middle of America framing gained traction, Clark began facing increasingly aggressive treatment on the court. The filing includes video evidence of multiple incidents where opposing players delivered unusually hard fouls against Clark, often accompanied by trash talk that referenced her race or privilege. One particularly telling incident occurred during a game against the Phoenix Mercury, where microphones caught an opposing player telling Clark, "Your white girl privilege won't help you here," moments before delivering an elbow to Clark's face that resulted in a bloody nose but only a common foul call. Sources close to Clark say she remained silent through months of this treatment, focusing instead on her game and adjusting to professional basketball. But the final straw came when youth basketball clinics featuring Clark began receiving cancellations after parents expressed concerns that their children would be perceived as supporting an athlete who represented white privilege in sports, a direct result, Clark's team argues, of the narrative McNutt helped create. At that point, it wasn't just about me anymore, Clark reportedly told her inner circle. When you're telling little girls they should feel guilty for looking up to someone because of race, that crosses a line. The lawsuit seeks damages for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with business relationships. Clark's attorneys estimate the damage to her endorsement potential at over $10 million, with additional compensation sought for personal suffering and punitive damages. ESPN executives are reportedly in crisis mode. Internal sources describe a network divided, with some defending McNutt's right to analyze cultural dynamics in sports, while others worry about the legal exposure created by commentary that strayed from basketball analysis into racial motivations without factual basis. McNutt herself was reportedly spotted leaving ESPN's headquarters in tears shortly after being served with the lawsuit. One witness described her as completely blindsided and devastated that her commentary had escalated to this level. Her representatives have declined formal comment, stating only that Ms. McNutt has always approached her analysis with integrity and thoughtfulness. What makes this situation particularly remarkable is how it contrasts with Clark's own approach to race and basketball. Throughout her college career and into her professional debut, Clark has consistently deflected questions about race, instead emphasizing basketball fundamentals, teamwork, and growing the game for all young players regardless of background. In her Iowa days, Clark frequently highlighted teammates from diverse backgrounds and publicly celebrated the growing diversity in women's basketball. When asked about being a role model, she's consistently said she hopes to inspire any kid who loves basketball, never limiting her desired impact to any racial demographic. This approach makes McNutt's framing of Clark as some sort of white-centric phenomenon particularly stinging to Clark's supporters. They point to the demographic data of WNBA viewership since Clark's arrival, which shows significant growth across all racial demographics, not just white viewers. Basketball analysts not involved in the lawsuit have pointed out the fundamental flaws in McNutt's original premise. If Clark's appeal was primarily about being white, then why didn't Paige Buecher's drive this kind of viewership surge? Asked one prominent basketball writer referencing the UConn star who is also white but hasn't generated the same level of mainstream attention, and why did Clark's games against South Carolina featuring predominantly black players break viewership records? The numbers tell a compelling story that contradicts McNutt's narrative. Clark's final college game against South Carolina, a team with primarily black players, drew 18.9 million viewers, the most watched women's college basketball game in history. Her WNBA debut attracted 2.1 million viewers, more than doubling previous opening night records. Television executives involved in WNBA broadcasts note that viewer demographics show growth across all racial categories, not just white viewers. The data simply doesn't support the idea that Clark's appeal is racially limited, said one anonymous network executive. We're seeing unprecedented interest from basketball fans of all backgrounds. Perhaps most damning to McNutt's position is the testimony of Clark's fellow players, including many black stars who have publicly praised her game as genuinely revolutionary. Angel Reese, often positioned as Clark's rival, has repeatedly acknowledged Clark's basketball brilliance while emphasizing their mutual respect. A'ja Wilson called Clark's court vision generational, while Diana Taurasi praised her shooting range as beyond even Steph Curry territory. These player evaluations suggest what basketball purists have been saying all along. Clark's appeal isn't about race, it's about a once-in-a-generation talent who plays an exciting, innovative style of basketball that resonates with fans regardless of background. Legal experts are divided on how the case might proceed. Some note that opinions about cultural dynamics in sports are traditionally protected speech, making defamation claims difficult to prove. Others point out that repeatedly attributing someone's success to their race rather than their merit could indeed cross into defamatory territory if it damages their professional reputation. The case hinges on whether McNutt's statements can be proven false or if they're purely opinion, explained one sports law attorney. If Clark can demonstrate that her popularity is demonstrably based on basketball factors rather than racial preference, she might have a case. Adding another layer to this legal drama is the response from Clark's sponsors and business partners. Sources report that Nike, which signed Clark to a massive endorsement deal before her WNBA debut, is fully supporting her legal action. Other major brands associated with Clark have reportedly reached out to offer their backing as well, seeing the lawsuit as necessary to protect their investment in an athlete whose appeal they believe transcends racial boundaries. The timing of this lawsuit is particularly significant given the WNBA's current trajectory. The league is experiencing unprecedented growth, with Clark leading the charge alongside stars like Angel Reese, A'ja Wilson and Sabrina Ionescu. Television deals are being renegotiated, expansion teams are being considered, and for the first time in its history the WNBA is capturing mainstream attention comparable to men's sports. Against this backdrop, Clark's lawsuit represents more than just personal vindication. It reflects a fight for how women's basketball will be framed as it reaches new heights. Will extraordinary talents be celebrated for their skills and impact, or will their achievements be filtered through racial narratives that divide rather than unite fans? The basketball community seems increasingly exhausted by the latter approach. Former players from diverse backgrounds have begun speaking out, criticizing what they see as attempts to racialize Clark's success rather than simply appreciating greatness. I played in this league for 15 years, said one retired WNBA star who requested anonymity. All we ever wanted was for people to watch us play, to respect our game, to fill the arenas. Clark comes in and makes that happen, and instead of celebrating it, some people are trying to tear her down because of who she is rather than what she does on the court. It's madness. Another veteran player put it more bluntly. We've been begging for attention for decades. Now we have it because this kid can shoot from the logo and thread no-look passes that make you rewind the TV. Who cares what she looks like? She balls, period. The lawsuit has also sparked conversation about the responsibility of sports commentators, particularly when addressing cultural and racial dynamics. Critics of McNutt argue that attributing athletic success or fan support to racial factors without concrete evidence crosses an ethical line, especially when those comments may incite hostility toward the athlete. Supporters of McNutt counter that examining racial dynamics in sports is legitimate cultural analysis. particularly in a country with a complex racial history. They argue that observation isn't the same as accusation and that McNutt never claimed Clark lacked talent, only that her reception might be influenced by factors beyond her considerable skills. What's undeniable is the impact this legal battle could have on sports media moving forward. Commentators across networks are reportedly receiving guidance from legal departments about discussing athletes in racial contexts, with many networks implementing new review processes for segments that touch on race and athletics. For her part, Clark has remained focused on basketball throughout this developing story. In her most recent game before the lawsuit became public, she recorded a triple-double against the Las Vegas Aces, showcasing the all-around brilliance that made her the #1 draft pick. When asked about off-court distractions in the post-game press conference, she simply said, "I'm here to play basketball at the highest level possible. Everything else is noise." That professional focus might be Clark's most powerful refutation of the narrative surrounding her. While pundits debate her cultural significance, she continues breaking records, filling arenas, and transforming a league that has struggled for mainstream attention throughout its existence. The question now is whether this lawsuit will finally put the debate about Clark's popularity to rest, or whether it will further inflame tensions in an already divided sports media landscape. Legal experts suggest the case could take months to resolve, potentially hanging over Clark's rookie season like a cloud. For McNutt, the stakes couldn't be higher. Beyond the financial implications of the lawsuit, her reputation as a basketball analyst hangs in the balance. Sources at ESPN indicate that while the network is publicly supporting her for now, executives are concerned about the potential fallout if the case proceeds to discovery and trial. "Everyone's walking on eggshells," said one ESPN producer. "This isn't just about Monica versus Caitlin, it's about how we talk about race in sports, what constitutes analysis versus defamation, and whether we're helping or hurting the growth of women's basketball with these narratives." The broader women's basketball community seems increasingly frustrated by the controversy. Many players and coaches have expressed concern that the focus on racial dynamics is overshadowing what should be a celebration of the sport's growing popularity and excellence. "We finally have people watching us play," said one current WNBA coach. "Arenas are full, TV ratings are up, and instead of building on that momentum, we're tearing each other down with arguments about who deserves credit and why people are watching. It's self-sabotage at a moment when we should be united in growing the game." As news of the lawsuit spreads, fan reaction has been predictably divided along existing lines. Clark supporters see it as a necessary stand against unfair characterization, while McNutt's defenders view it as an attempt to silence legitimate cultural criticism. What's clear is that this legal battle represents far more than a personal disagreement between a player and a commentator. It strikes at fundamental questions about sports, race, merit, and media responsibility, questions that will likely persist long after this particular case is resolved. For now, the basketball world watches and waits to see how this unprecedented lawsuit will unfold, and whether it will change the way we talk about athletes, race, and the complex intersection between sports and society. As Clark's attorneys prepare for what could be a lengthy legal process, and as McNutt consults with her legal team and ESPN executives about next steps, the women's basketball renaissance continues, albeit now with an added layer of complexity that no one involved in growing the game could have wanted. The ultimate irony of this situation is that both Clark and McNutt likely share the same fundamental goal, advancing women's basketball and ensuring it receives the attention and respect it deserves. That they've ended up in a legal battle over how to frame that advancement speaks to the challenges that remain even in this moment of unprecedented growth for the sport. In the coming days, both sides are expected to make more detailed public statements about the lawsuit. ESPN will face increasing pressure to clarify its position, and the WNBA itself may eventually need to address the situation given its potential impact on league dynamics. For basketball fans caught in the middle, the hope is that this controversy will eventually give way to a focus on what brought them to women's basketball in the first place, the incredible talent, competitive spirit, and athletic excellence displayed on the court night after night by players of all backgrounds.